What happens when Hollywood royalty meets radio royalty, and neither is willing to bow? What unfolds when a duchess walks into Howard Stern's studio, expecting royal treatment, only to face the raw, unfiltered Howard Stern experience instead? Last night's explosive broadcast had the internet in flames within minutes of airing. But before we dive into this unbelievable exchange, hit that subscribe button and buckle up. Because Meghan Markle's attempt to control the narrative went up in smoke the moment Howard took the mic. The setup seemed harmless enough. A routine promotional interview for Meghan's latest project. Another stop on her media redemption tour. But the moment she settled into the guest chair, the energy shifted. Howard wasn't playing along. The room pulsed with tension. Even Robin Quivers, usually full of warmth, sat silent and watchful. "So, Meghan," Howard began, reclining with that familiar razor-edged smile. "Let's talk about authenticity. You've built your whole brand around being real, speaking your truth. But here's what I want to know." He paused, letting the silence hang heavy. "When did authenticity start meaning rewriting history? Every time you sit for an interview?" The question hit like a punch. Meghan's practiced smile faltered. Barely. But Howard caught it. "Everyone did. I'm not sure what you mean," she said evenly. "I've always been consistent in sharing my experiences and my truth." "Your truth," Howard repeated, drawing out each word. "See, that's funny. Truth used to just be truth. Now it's like Starbucks. Everyone's got their own flavor." Even the soundboard operator froze. This wasn't the usual Howard Stern circus. This was surgical. "Howard," Meghan countered, her posture straightening. "There's a misunderstanding here. I came to talk about my work, the positive things I'm doing." "Oh, the positive work," Howard echoed, voice dripping with sarcasm. "You mean the part where you toss your family under the bus for sympathy? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like your biggest project is playing the victim while stepping on everyone who helped you get here." Silence. Her PR team behind the glass looked panicked. "That's not fair," Meghan snapped, the cracks showing now. "You don't know what I've been through. The racism, the scrutiny, the threats to my children." "Racism," Howard said flatly. "You marry into the richest family on earth, live in palaces, and your big takeaway is that you're a victim. Meanwhile, real people face real racism every day, without a Montecito mansion to cry from. The gloves were off. You have no idea what it's like to be dissected constantly." Meghan fired back. Every move, every breath criticized. "My children's safety." "Your children's safety?" Howard leaned in. "You mean the paparazzi you call when you want a puff piece? Or the family members you've been torching in every interview since 2020? The air went dead still. Even Robin's quiet, "Oh my God," couldn't break the tension. For the first time, Meghan Markle was in a room she couldn't control. And it showed. "Howard, maybe we should—" Robin began softly, trying to diffuse the rising tension. "No, Robin." Howard cut her off, his gaze locked on Meghan. "I think our guest wants to have a real conversation for once. Isn't that right, Meghan? Isn't this what authenticity looks like? Or does that only count when you control the narrative?" Meghan's composure was slipping fast. Her hands, once neatly folded in her lap, now gripped the arms of her chair like anchors. "You're being incredibly disrespectful, Howard," she said sharply. "I came here in good faith to have a conversation, not to be attacked." "Attacked?" Howard let out a short, humorless laugh. "Lady, this isn't an attack. This is what a real interview sounds like when someone stops throwing you softballs. You want to talk about disrespect? Let's talk about how you disrespected an entire institution, a family, and a country, just because things didn't go your way." The air in the studio thickened. Everyone could feel it spiraling towards something explosive. Behind the glass, Meghan's team gestured wildly, silently pleading for her to stop. But she was locked in, emotion overriding training. You don't understand the pressures I was under. She fired back, voice shaking but defiant. The isolation, the lack of support, the way I was treated by both the institution and the media. I had to protect myself and my family. Protect yourself? Howard's tone sharpened like a blade. By going on Oprah and torching everyone who helped you? By selling books and interviews that turn your family into villains? That's not protection. That's PR-driven revenge. The studio vibrated with tension. This wasn't entertainment anymore. It was a showdown. And neither combatant was backing down. What started as a simple promo, Robin murmured under her breath, is turning into the most explosive interview this show's ever had. Howard leaned back, smirk returning like a wolf scenting blood. You know what fascinates me, Meghan? You talk about being isolated, unsupported. Yet you had an entire PR army, staff, advisors, millions in backing. But somehow, everyone around you was the problem. Everyone, except you. Meghan's jaw tightened. That's a gross oversimplification of what I went through. You're reducing complex institutional problems, right? Howard interrupted, voice rising again. Is that what we're calling it when you can't get along with your sister-in-law? When staff quit because they couldn't work with you? At what point do you look in the mirror and realize you might be the common denominator? The words hit like a gut punch. The crew froze. Even Robin shifted uncomfortably, sensing that Howard had crossed a line even by his standards. That's not what happened, Meghan said, voice trembling with anger. Those are tabloid lies. I was bullied by the British press from day one, and when I tried to defend myself, I was branded difficult. Bullied? Howard laughed, sharp, cutting. By the same press that celebrated your engagement? Your wedding? Your baby? They turned on you when you started acting like you were bigger than the crown. You don't know what you're talking about, Meghan snapped, composure shattering. You weren't there. You didn't see what they did behind closed doors. The microaggressions, the subtle racism, the way they tried to silence me when I stood up for myself. Howard leaned forward, eyes gleaming. Microaggressions? Subtle racism? From the family that... And just like that, the studio descended into stunned silence. Everyone, Robin, Fred, the crew, knew they were witnessing something that would set the internet on fire. And Howard Stern wasn't finished yet. Millions spent on your wedding. A global platform bigger than most world leaders. Howard said, his voice low but cutting. Come on, Meghan. You're sitting here talking about racism while publicly tearing down an elderly woman who dedicated her life to service. The mention of the Queen struck a raw nerve. Meghan's face flushed crimson, her royal composure disintegrating. Don't you dare lecture me about the Queen, she snapped, her voice rising enough to make the audio engineers dive for the volume controls. You have no idea what that family is like behind closed doors. The silence, the complicity, the hypocrisy. They protect their own while throwing everyone else to the wolves. Howard leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. Their own? You married into that family. Harry was their own, until you convinced him to burn every bridge he had. You turned a decorated war hero, a beloved prince, into your personal mouthpiece. Tell me, Meghan, how does it feel knowing you helped destroy his relationship with his father, his brother, his entire heritage? The air in the studio was electric. Meghan's mask finally slipped. Harry made his own choices. She shot back. I didn't force him to do anything. He saw how I was being treated and he chose to protect his wife and children. That's what real men do. They protect their families. Protect? Howard sneered. Is that what you call airing family secrets on international television? Making vague accusations of racism without naming names? And letting the internet destroy whoever it wants? Selling private conversations for profit? That's not protection, Meghan. That's revenge. The words hit hard. Meghan's hands trembled. Her cheeks flushed beneath her makeup. Behind the glass, her PR team was in chaos, motioning wildly for her to end the interview. But she wasn't backing down. "You think you know everything, don't you?" she fired back. "You sit in your studio making jokes, pretending you understand what it's like to be a woman of color, trying to survive in an institution built on centuries of privilege. You have no idea what I sacrificed, what I endured." Howard stood now, looming over the desk. "Endured?" he scoffed. "You endured palaces, servants, designer clothes, million-dollar jewelry, global adoration, and a royal wedding the world stopped to watch. My heart bleeds for you." The sarcasm dripped like poison. "Howard, maybe we should take a break," Robin said quietly. "No breaks," Howard snapped, eyes locked on Meghan. "Our guest wanted authenticity. No handlers, no scripts, no safe space. Well, here it is. Truth." Meghan rose from her chair, her calm completely gone. "You want truth?" she shouted. "The truth is you're a bully, a bitter old man who gets off on humiliating people. You represent everything that's wrong with modern media. Cruelty, mockery, and zero empathy." Howard pointed a finger directly at her. "And you represent everything that's wrong with modern celebrity. Entitlement, victimhood, and zero accountability. You've made a career out of burning bridges and calling it bravery." They stood face to face, two titans locked in open combat. The studio crew was frozen, afraid to move, aware they were witnessing broadcast history. Meghan's eyes blazed with fury. Her voice cut through the silence like a blade. "You want the real truth, Howard?" she hissed. "You're a washed-up shock jock who peaked 20 years ago. You attack women because you can't handle powerful ones. You're not relevant, just loud." The room fell completely silent. For the first time all night, Howard Stern didn't respond immediately. But the look in his eyes said it all. This battle was far from over. Howard had severely underestimated who he was dealing with. His expression shifted, a look his longtime listeners knew too well. The calm before the storm. When he finally spoke, his tone was icy, deliberate, and deadly. "Strong women," he repeated, each word laced with venom. "Lady, I've interviewed strong women. Oprah built an empire from scratch. Barbara Walters broke into journalism when it was a men's club. Hillary Clinton clawed her way to the top of American politics. And you? You married into royalty and spent every waking moment complaining about how hard it was. That's not strength. That's self-pity." Meghan's face turned pale with fury. "How dare you compare me to other women like we're in some misogynistic competition?" she snapped. "You don't get to define what strength looks like, especially for women of color who face challenges you could never begin to understand." Howard's voice rose, sharp and booming. "Women of color? You want to talk about women of color? Let's talk about the ones who actually face real discrimination, real poverty, real struggle, while you sit in a mansion crying about how the royal family didn't appreciate your Hollywood background. You've turned your mixed-race heritage into a shield you pull out whenever someone criticizes you." The words hit like shrapnel. The studio went silent. Fred looked up from his console, eyes wide. Robin froze mid-sentence. Even Meghan's PR team behind the glass stopped moving, watching in stunned disbelief. "That's disgusting!" Meghan spat, trembling. "You're disgusting. To sit there and minimize the racism I've faced. To dismiss my struggles because I had privilege. That's the toxic masculinity and white privilege I've been fighting my entire adult life." Howard laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. "White privilege? I'm the son of a radio engineer from Queens who worked my way up from nothing. You grew up in Hollywood, went to private schools, had acting coaches, and married a prince. But sure, I'm the privileged one. The delusion is stunning." Meghan's mascara streaked as tears of rage welled up. Her voice cracked but didn't break. "You don't know anything about my childhood. About growing up biracial in America. About struggling to be taken seriously in Hollywood." Struggles in Hollywood? Howard pounced. You mean the kind of struggles that got you a starring role on a hit TV show? That put you on red carpets, in magazines, and in the same circles that introduced you to royalty? Forgive me if I don't shed a tear for your suffering. The tension was unbearable. Meghan's hands shook as she pointed at him, voice trembling with rage. You are everything that's wrong with the world. You sit there in your comfortable little studio, tearing down women, especially women of color, for ratings. You're a relic from a toxic past the world has already outgrown. And you, Howard fired back, now shouting, are everything wrong with modern celebrity. You use every privilege, every opportunity, then turn around and play the victim the second you're called out. You've turned victimhood into a brand, and frankly, it's pathetic. The word hit like a hammer. Meghan's face twisted with fury. She snatched her purse, standing so abruptly her chair nearly toppled. I don't have to sit here and take this abuse from a washed-up radio host, clinging to relevance. She screamed, her voice raw. You're a bully with a microphone, and I'm done feeding your ego. As she stormed toward the exit, Howard called after her, his voice echoing across the stunned studio. There it is, the real Meghan Markle. The moment you lose control, you run. You ran from your family. You ran from your country. You run from anything you can't control. Because the one thing you'll never admit is that you're not a victim. You're just afraid. Meghan froze at the door, her face red with fury, as she spun back toward him. And the world held its breath. Meghan's eyes shimmered with tears, her face twisted in fury. You know what, Howard? She hissed. History will remember me as a woman who stood up for what's right, who fought against racism and inequality, who used her voice to make the world better. You'll be remembered as a bitter old man who built a career humiliating women on the radio. Howard leaned back, a dark laugh rumbling from his chest. History, he repeated. History will remember you as the woman who married a prince, and then spent the rest of her life complaining about it. The woman who had everything, and still found a way to play the victim. The woman who turned royal privilege into a professional grievance. The words hung in the air like smoke. With a sudden, furious motion, Meghan yanked the studio door open so violently, it slammed against the wall. Her entourage scrambled to follow as her heels clattered sharply down the hallway. The sound of her retreat echoed long after she disappeared from sight. Inside the studio, silence settled. Heavy. Electric. Howard remained standing for a moment, his breathing ragged. Then he exhaled, slowly lowering himself into his chair. The low hum of the audio boards filled the room, underscored by the distant ding of an elevator. Meghan's escape. Robin finally broke the silence, her voice barely audible. Well, that was something. Howard wiped a bead of sweat from his brow and gave a weary smirk. That, he said, is what happens when someone used to controlling every narrative finally meets someone who doesn't play by the script. Fred let out a low whistle. 30 years in this studio, he muttered, and I've never seen anything like that. Howard nodded slowly. That's authenticity, he said into the mic, his tone calm but cutting. Not the polished, PR-approved version celebrities try to sell you. Real authenticity is raw. It's messy. It's uncomfortable. And it reveals things people spend their whole careers trying to hide. As the crew began to move again, adjusting mics and cables in stunned silence, the weight of what had just happened settled over them. They all knew they'd witnessed something historic. The most explosive celebrity meltdown in radio history. Broadcast live, unfiltered, undeniable. What was meant to be a simple interview had turned into a brutal clash between Hollywood privilege and New York bluntness, between manufactured image and raw truth. Howard leaned forward one final time, his voice low but steady. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, that was Meghan Markle, Unedited, unfiltered, and exactly who she is when no one can cut the tape. Sometimes the most revealing interviews, he paused, are the ones where the guest reveals more than they ever meant to. He flicked off the mic, and just like that, one of the most unforgettable confrontations in talk show history came to its dramatic end, leaving millions of listeners stunned, buzzing, and ready to replay every second for years to come.